What's up, everybody? Welcome to Call the Damn Leads, the show for sales professionals by sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson. I am so excited to be here with you, sharing all kinds of wild stories and tactical advice on how you can take your sales career to the next level and have a little fun doing it. Because let's be honest, sales can be one of the wildest, most stressful jobs on the planet. And it can also have some of the coolest experiences we will ever have. And that's what this show is here to do, to help you see and experience just that. Again, my name is Drewbie Wilson, and I'm here to take you on that journey. Today's guest is someone I'm super duper excited to have on here. He is a mentor of mine over the last couple of years. He is also known as the marketing savage. And if you guys are calling the damn leads, you know how important marketing is. So this guy is not only going to share some marketing stuff with us, but he's going to talk about how he became one of the most successful sales guys in his industry. So do me a favor and help welcome Mr. John Highley to the stage. What's up, John?
Hey, what's up, Drewbie? I appreciate that awesome intro, bro. I'm so happy to be on this podcast. It's been a long time since I've been on a sales podcast. It seems like I've been gravitating towards the spiritual stuff and all that, and I'm excited to talk about this because I believe this is a story that I have not told on any other podcast, multiple stories, and I think that for the individual out there who really needs some inspiration and needs some tactical information on how to break into sales and just do it relentlessly like a savage, I'm going to be able to give that information to them today, and they can be inspired by my story.
I absolutely love that, and that's why I was so excited to bring you on. I know we've been working together personally for a couple of years now, but one thing I've really seen in you is you have this ability to influence others to make powerful decisions. And when I think about sales, one of the most powerful things I've learned in the years, especially from Ryan Stu and one of my other mentors, is there's two things you really need in sales. You need confidence and you need empathy. And one thing you are absolutely amazing at, John, is listening to what people are saying, hearing where they're coming from, and then helping show them what that path to the solution they're looking for could potentially look like. And I know that confidence wasn't always there because you were sharing some stories. So here's what I want to know. First and foremost, what is your most memorable call the damn leads moment? Like, tell me a story, some wild sales story.
Yes. So my most memorable, I first want to start off by saying, the thing about how I have that empathy and I'm able to guide people to decision, because I truly believe that when somebody reaches out to you and they inquire about your products or your services, the pressure's already in them. You do not have to pressure people to buy anything. The pressure is in them. What you got to do is you got to paint a vision and guide them to a path to get what they want. They contacted you for a reason. They want something. You've got to be able to articulate that in a way that they will be able to understand it. Now, I didn't know this when I first started in business, because when I started in business, we're talking back in 2003. So I've literally owned my own business from way back when in 2003. I was in the automotive industry, and essentially I would drive around from car dealership to car dealership or from person to person, and I would fix their cars mobily. And at that time, we were doing mobile automotive dent removal. And I learned about this service because when I was a kid, I was working as a detailer. I was 16, 17 years old, and I still remember the jealous detail guy that I worked with that was so jealous about these guys that were going into the car dealerships and fixing dents. And he was telling me, he goes, man, these guys make a fortune. I can't believe that we're detailing these cars for $50 each. And that's what the price was back then. And these guys are going in and they are cleaning house. They're making, $1,000, $1,500 a day. And that's when the bell went off in my head. Ding, 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 ding. It's like, I got to figure out who these guys are and what they're doing. So in 2003, when I was 18, I went out to school and I spent a month out in Southern California, and I came back with a bag of tools, didn't know how to fix a dent to save my life. So I had to practice, I had to hustle, I had no confidence, and even the service that I offered, there was no confidence there. Now, keep in mind, guys, later on, I became the industry leader, and I educated half the world on how to do this thing, right? So, but early on, I had no confidence at all. It took me a long time to learn it, and I was scared to death of sales. I'd never sold nothing to anybody that was legal. So I had sold all illegal stuff to that point. And here's the thing. You don't got to sell that stuff. People want it. They're just going to buy it from you. So when you figure out that, you actually got to sell something, it was terrifying for me. And I would literally drive up to these car dealerships and I would sit in my truck and I would look through the window and I would just drive off. I wouldn't even walk in. So I was so terrified to talk to anybody. It brought anxiety to me. I could feel my breath. I would start breathing to the point where I couldn't even speak because I'm breathing so much, right? I was literally having anxiety attacks about walking in and talking to people, right? This went on for, Drewbie, I would say a few years that this actually went on. And so I finally mustered up the courage during this time to go into probably the crappiest car dealerships that there were out there. These were the car and credit lots in the middle of downtown Dayton, Ohio. And I'm walking in, and my job then is like to find the biggest, nastiest dent that they have on that lot and then work my butt off all day long to fix it for like $100. And that's how low my confidence was at that time. Well, little did I know, because I started doing this and I put myself through this crazy gauntlet of fixing these wild dents that were just unrepairable. And guys, we were fixing them without like the body shop or painting them or anything like that. We were like muscling these things out with tools and pecking on the outside to blend them down together. And we were doing it very effectively. And then all of a sudden, 2 years of going through this traumatic stress of barely making any money, some days failing, some days winning, I literally became probably one of the best dent guys in the world because I put myself in this, I was going through this terrible situation, right? Which later on brought confidence to me. I still remember today that one of the craziest sales stories and things that happened to me is when I met my other person. And what I mean by that is that we ended up doing that. I ended up going broke. And I went to the point to where literally like my family was on the edge of not being able to, survive. And I can just remember sitting in my truck and having tears streaming down my face. And then I just got angry and I had this thing come over me and I said, I am not going to allow myself to stop myself from succeeding ever again. And Drewbie, something changed. There was like a switch that flipped in me. And today people talk about that. I met my other person in that moment, right? So I met this other person that was waiting to be seen. And this other person that came out in that moment was confident and knew what to do. And so I ended up going out and started going into these big car dealerships, Drewbie, and I started walking in like I owned the place. Bro. Like I started walking into these places like I owned the place. I sat in the cars acting like I was driving them and I was a customer that wanted to talk to the general manager. I made up this whole spiel, this kind of just to get my foot in the door where, hey man, I spoke to, I would call, number one, I would call the dealers and I'd say, hey man, I spoke to a guy the other day. He said he was your used car manager. What's his name again? So they'd give me, whatever, Jack Smith, if I couldn't find it on the website, right? I would literally walk in and I'd be like, hey man, I talked to Jack the other day. I'd be sitting in one of the cars, a Corvette or something. I talked to Jack the other day. He was telling me about some things he had going on here. Is he around? And then they would literally walk me into the office because they thought I was a customer. And once I got this guy in the office, my goal was I do not leave there until he lets me unload my tools and fix something on that car dealership. Like I will not. I had been at the point, Drewbie, where I got in these offices and I actually seen them right now. I'm pulling on their neck, like I'm on their shirt. I would see them get nervous, look up at the clock, pull their neck, start sweating. I had a book that showed all the dents that I did. I already looked at their lot and found the ones that their guy couldn't fix. And had them all laid out. I already had the free one that I was going to do for them. I literally forced them to allow me to unload my tools and start working. Either that or they were going to kick me out of the office. So they were going to kick me out, physically have me removed out of their office, or I was going to go back to my truck, unload the tools, go fix a car, and then I was going to come back with a list of the rest of the cars that I found with the price beside them. And I said, which ones would you like me to continue working on? Period.
Hold on, man. There's a whole lot to unpack out of that. I'm gonna let you finish for a second, but there's a lot to unpack there, man. Because you went through 2 years of shit.
Yeah, 2 years of absolute shit, which I found later on. That's where my success came from, because the guys that just got it handed to them, and the guys that just got it delivered to them on a silver platter, maybe they knew somebody or they knew people. Them guys had never been in the stressful situations that I was in or that I was dealing with on a daily basis. So when I later built the world's largest educational system in that industry, because of the type of work that I could do, because I earned the respect of the actual technicians that wanted to learn from me. When I built a worldwide training school out of that industry, it all stemmed from them 2 years of shit sandwiches that I had to eat each and every day. All of it.
It really takes me back to, when I got into sales originally, also selling illegal products, but like when we got into the real world of sales, not the stuff that people want, right? And before I even dive into that story, let's just be very clear. There's a difference between a sales professional and someone who's an order taker. Someone who takes orders, who just picks up the phone and, hey, what do you want? Cool, it's $7. Like, that is an order taker. That is not a sales professional. This show, if you are currently taking orders, we're going to show you how to become a true sales professional. And it comes from exactly what John talked about, doing the reps, going out, making the calls, having those conversations, feeling extremely awkward, knowing there's the butterflies and the, like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And you'll get to that point where you have just literally ground yourself into a big meat sack of just mush, and you'll meet your alter ego. You'll meet that person that just comes out when you have no other choice but to succeed. And it's such a beautiful transition, because when you see that happen in anyone, but like especially in a young sales professional, man, the flip, that's like that killer instinct comes in, the savage comes out of them. It's beautiful,
bro. So let me tell you something, Drewbie. There's something to be said that alter ego you met, you are actually your alter ego, and you actually met your real self. And there's something to be said about that, because I want you guys to think about this, okay? I really think about this because I have done so much research on the way schools are set up. I want you to think about this. When you went into kindergarten when you was a kid, you were alive, man. You wanted to go to school. You know, your mind was racing. You had all this imaginative thought. You were confident. You had all of these things. By the time you were in 6th grade, you were sitting there burying your head on your desk. All of that spirit was erased out of you, right? So I feel like we just got to relearn who we were meant to be. We've got to step back into our confidence, our imagination, our creativity, our belief. And so there's a book that I'm actually reading called The Alter Ego that talks about that says the actual alter ego that comes out during that is just who the world told you was not cool, like for the longest time, and told you to stuff it down, hide it. You know, don't be yourself. Don't be the powerful individual you are meant to be. Stuff down that seed of creativity, right? And you eventually find that because the stress of being who the world created you to be, the stress of what you're dealing with right now gets to the point where you can't take it anymore, and you've got to become the person that you were ultimately meant to be.
Whew, that is good. That is good. I'm going to have to save one of those clips because, man, that is so powerful. And it's interesting because you're right. It's funny how when we hit that, Jekyll high, that inner, it's like, no, that's the drive. That's that animal instinct. That's that true inner power, man. That's beautiful. So, John, if you had one sales strategy that you thought was like your secret weapon, like you knew that if you were going through it, you could rely on this one thing, what would that strategy be?
I would relentlessly, and I do this, so I'm going to tell you, I would relentlessly think all the time. I'm thinking all the time about what it is that your client base wants, that what will change their life. And for me, I focus on what changes rich people's life, because I like to make a lot of money, and I like to do big, high-ticket sales. So I am continuously thinking, what do they need? Get like insanely focused on solving other people's problems, and be able to articulate it in such a way that what is in it for them. So many people get stuck on my particular things, or these are the things that you get. They get so focused on themselves. Listen to me. People do not care about what you say about you. Okay? Now, you use a little bit of that for market positioning. They do want to know that you're a professional or that you have something of value. But at the end of the day, you need to paint a picture of what it is that they get, the end result. And you have to make sure that the end result is incredibly desirable to these individuals, to that client base. And you got to think about that over and over again. Once you figure that out, you're not going to have to sell anymore. You might have to take a credit card, whatever. But at the end of the day, when people know that what you have to offer is more valuable than the money that they have in their pocket, and it's going to get them what they want, They will exchange it over and over and over and over again. All the money in the world that you want, all your dreams that you have, let me tell you where the money is. I'm going to tell you exactly where the money is. It is in other people's pockets. It is with other people. So what do you got to do? You got to be relentless in figuring out a way that you can give them value that will allow them to exchange that money and then elevate both of your lives in that exchange. That's what I would say to anybody who is in sales, and being able to paint that picture. When you get on a sales call with somebody, you need to show them that what you have is what they want. All right? Listen, Drewbie, we deal with a lot of people in this. I mean, I know you're in consulting and I'm in marketing, and I deal with people that I'm just like, all y'all are doing is talking about yourself. Like, I understand maybe a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about who you are, get them to know who you are, but don't make the whole presentation about you and your company. Make it about them and what you can do for them. And
that's such a powerful thing, man, because sales is the know, like, and trust process. So many folks get hung up on, hey, get to know me, get to know me, get to know me, and it's like, well, I already know you, and I don't need to know a whole lot about you to like you. I just need to know enough to like you, and then I can decide if I trust you. The problem is most people, it's like, oh, get to know me, get to know me, get to know me, and then it's like, I don't really like you anymore. And so there's really no trust, because all you do is talk about yourself, and it's like, well, like, you know, that's cool, but like, what's in it for me? What about old Drewbie? What if I got a problem that needs solved? Like, it's crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you know, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So we're supposed to listen, and solve people's problems. It's what we were put here to do. I mean, we're literally put here to create and solve people's problems.
So that's a great segue into my next question, because solving problems is a huge part of sales. When I think about my job and as a sales professional, I am a professional problem solver. Like, that's my job. Hey, first and foremost, I need to get to understand who you are and what your problem is so that I can know whether or not I can help it, because like a great sales professional knows when they shouldn't sell something to someone because it's not the right fit. And an even better one will know who to send it to so that they can create a partnership and a referral growth. Like we'll talk about that in later episodes. But having that conversation and knowing how to solve problems. So let's talk about one time where you had a sale that you thought was like completely lost. You had done it all, like had built all the rapport and everything was great. And then you were like, what happened? What's going on? Tell me how you were able to go back and save that deal.
If I was to think about a deal, a really big deal that I thought that it was completely lost and had to go back and save it, man, I'll tell you what, like the significance of that is incredible, because, I mean, there's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of times when I feel like one was lost, but it just comes back to me. My strategy is a little bit different, and some people are not going to like this, Drewbie. So, and in fact, it's probably against what a lot of sales professionals. So there's a lot of times where, bro, I just step away and leave people alone, and I let God move on my behalf. So I literally say to myself, you know what? If it's meant to be, then they'll come back to me. If it's meant to be, they're going to show up at my front doorstep, and it's going to happen. And anytime I sway from that, and I get to the point to where I'm continuously following up, it doesn't work as well as just stepping away. And bro, I'll get people that'll go for 2-3 weeks, and I won't even follow up on a proposal that I sent, and they'll hit me up, and all of a sudden it'll be a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 deal that'll just land in our lap like that. It literally happens to me every day. I mean, we get people that contact us back, and so there's a situation where we were working. Okay, I got one for you. Actually, it was a multi-million dollar. It's a $400 million medical company that I work with. And one of the partners had reached out to me about doing all of their marketing and webinars and all these kind of things. I ended up meeting with him. We had lunch, and then I sent him a proposal. And I was even like a few days late to send this guy a proposal. Like, things came up, and he had to reach out to me and was like, hey, man. He's like, were you going to send that proposal over? I was like, oh, dude, I forgot, you know, and I text him back about it, right? I sent him the proposal over, and it was a big one, like a really big one. We're talking about a 6-figure deal. And it's ongoing, too, because I'm still working with the company, and they're investing 6 figures a month with us right now. So we got this deal going, you know, with this guy, and I knew how big it was and all these kind of things, and I just never messaged him back. And I never contacted him back. And he randomly hit me up on text message one day, and he goes, "Hey, man, you never really got back with me about the proposal. That doesn't really say a lot about your marketing services because you never really even followed up with me." I was like, "Oh, I hit him back, and I was like, oh, man, I just don't do that, bro. Like, we're really busy here. And I mean, if you want it, you want it. You hear what it is. You see what it is. You want it, you like it. You don't. Fine, whatever." Right? So that's usually how my sales conversations go with people. You want it, you don't, whatever. I'm not going to ask you to do it. I'm not going to sit here and beg you to do it. If you do, you do. You don't, you don't. If it's an alignment, it is. If it's not, it's not. If God makes it happen, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Period. And so I hit him with that. And it was probably 3 days later, they wired the money over to me. And interesting enough, when I spoke to him about that, he goes, man, he goes, at first I was a little suspicious that you never even followed up with me at all. And then you gave me that message back where you really felt like you acted like you didn't even care if I came on board with you or not, right? And you were polite. He said, but I'm just going to be honest with you, like, that's why I went with you. And I mean, I know this is contrary to popular opinion, but it's how I operate, especially if I'm working with the person one-on-one. It is usually going to be, hey, dude, like, I've been on these calls with people, and I'm like, hey, bro, like, here's the estimate. I'm not going to follow up with you. It's just, I'm going to move on. And if you want to do it, yes. If you don't, then no, don't do it.
You know what, though, John? I think this is a great testament to the brand that you've built, though, because let's be honest, not everyone has that ability to just take things away.
You're right.
There's some nuances, though, that I believe are really, really key to how you play that are super important for the listener to hear, though, because some people may see it as ego or whatever it is. I see it as the beauty of, you've built a really strong brand and you know what you're confident in delivering on, and that goes back to what we talked about. Hey, I heard what you had to say, sir. I know this is what you need. You know this is what you need. This is the next step. You take it or leave it.
Yep. And Drew, you heard the beginning of my story. The beginning of my story, I had to corner people in their office, bro. Like, why they were sweating and force them into letting me work for them, right? So that's where I started. And by all means, I'm not telling anybody who's just getting into sales to start this way. I'm just telling you that this is what currently works for me right now. And it typically, for the high ticket clients that I work with, I mean, we're talking about our low end client pays 10 grand a month, 100 grand a year, and our higher end clients pay way more than that. And so when you're working with an individual like that, like, you don't want to really come off like you're begging them to work with you. And I don't want to beg them to work with me. If I have to force them to work with me, it's probably not going to work out. And if they come to me and they say, well, hey, man, I'm trying to choose between you and this person, I'm like, well, I'm going to make your choice easy. Choose the other person. What? What do you mean choose? I'm like, I'm just making it easy for you, bro. Like, I don't need your money. And I don't need you as a client. I mean, I've got people that are coming. I've got a line of clients coming to me each and every day. I only want to work with people that specifically want to work with me. And don't take that as ego. That's just, it doesn't work. I've went through the scenario where we've had to, persuade somebody big time into working with us, and it always works out terribly. I want somebody that, number one, because I've got to set expectations on them. I've got to say, hey, y'all, look, you're going to work with me. Here's what I expect out of you. That doesn't happen with a person that you got to beg to come work with you. I got to make sure that they do what they should be doing on their end, and I set them expectations up front. So the situation is like this. Yes, I'm going to change your life. Look, there's mentors out there, or there's marketing companies out there that tell you to get you to 6 figures, whatever. Maybe they'll get you to 7 figures a year. I have clients that have done 7 figures that Drewbie, in a day. I have clients that have done $1 million in a day. So why these other mentors are out there pushing this hundreds of $1,000s a year, I've got clients that are closing $1 million in a day. And I'm here to tell you guys this, that making money faster is easier than making money slow. So if you make $1 million a year, it's a lot easier to make $1 million in a day. If you make $10 million a year, it's easy. If you make $100,000 in a year, $200,000, it's a lot easier to make $100,000 or $200,000 in one day, or 1 week. So that's what I do for my clients. So they got to be the right people. They got to be the type of action takers that take my advice and do it. They got to be successful already because they've got characteristics, traits that are successful. I want people that are strong decision makers, that when you ask them something and they know what they want, they take it and they take action on it. That's why I can do what I do. And I encourage you and anybody out there to build your brand to the point to where you don't have to grumble or grovel to get a sale. I don't even know if that's a word, grovel. I know grumble is.
Grovel. Grovel, I think is the word. I don't know how it's spelled exactly. I'll leave that to my son.
Man.
He's a spelling bee champ. But there's something to that, though, because I really do love the sales tactic of the fear of missing out, right? In marketing, we call it FOMO. But in sales, it can also be the very same thing. I'll never forget, I had a conversation with a coaching company. And I'm like, hey, I want to do this thing. You know, how much is it? And they're like $1,500, and then you got to do it right now. And I'm like, that's awesome. I don't have $1,500 right now. I can have it on Friday, or I can go talk to my boss and try to get it. And they're like, well, if you don't do it now, it's gone. And I'm like, well, man, yeah, all right. And come Friday when I called them, they're like, hey, sorry, we sold your slot to somebody else. And I was like, well, damn, that's kind of a dick move, but all right, I got you. Like, funny story, turns out they were coming into our market. They didn't want me to have their strategy because they were buying an agency up the street. I was a top producer. That's another story for another sales episode. Point is, though, that fear of missing out on something you want is a very powerful tool. So in sales, if you know, hey, this is the only opportunity for someone to get this thing at this price, you can use that as a technique to say, well, Mr. Johnson, I understand that you'd like to wait. However, let me help you understand that by waiting, it's not only going to cost you the time that you can't get back, you were missing out on this opportunity to save $5,000, $10,000, whatever that arbitrary number is, because of this special. And I would hate for you to miss out on that because, yeah, the time might come, you know, you can save on the time, but like it will never get cheaper. So like, let me help you by getting this done today so that you can get the thing you want and not have to pay more for it later. That's 100%. A powerful close. I've used it, like I've had it used on me. Like, hey man, this is the only time you're going to get this car at this price. You want it or not? It's like, man, I guess I want it.
Yep.
I don't have a choice.
You know, even better if they don't have the money on them right then, you just say, hey, well, all it's going to take to secure this deal is $2,000 down. We're going to give you, 7 days to get it funded. And let's just say it's a coaching program. And if for any reason you don't get it funded, I'm going to give you these 2 educational training courses to get you started that I normally sell for $8,000. I sell one for $5,000 and one for $3,000. And then so they still get the benefit. You know, I'm not going to just take your money if you can't get funded or we can't get you funded or approved or something to that nature. And that typically works for high-end closing clients because they can make a micro commitment and one step forward with you by putting down that deposit. And it's a lot easier to put down a deposit for $2,000 and then wire the rest of the money later than it is to come up with whatever $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. So it's a way for them just to move one step forward with you, right, and make that commitment. But the key is you get people to make a commitment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's a great thing too that I really appreciate because one of the big myths in sales is that like everybody's ready to make a decision right now. And that, like, to be honest, everyone makes decisions differently. But as you said, you can get those micro commitments. You can get them to saying yes, to being like, yes, this is what I want. Yes, I do agree that this will solve my problem.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if you can't get somebody to make a decision right away, essentially that means you haven't developed your offer to the point where it's what we call an IQ offer. An IQ offer is essentially a IQ test, meaning that it's an offer so incredible that it's testing the IQ of the individual or whether or not that they actually buy it or not. So there's a lot of times where you got to go back to the table and refocus on your offer. What is it that you're presenting to these folks that is stopping them from moving forward? And, if your offer is under $5,000, if your offer is under $5,000, there's no reason any average person in America can't afford to get that offer. Now, the problem is that they're trying to sell, something worth $500 for $500. The key to it is I call this selling them a Ferrari, right? An example of this, Drewbie, back when you lived in Toledo and you were working for the cigar shop, and I know all your stories. I know all of them. So back then, when you were working for the cigar shop, now, if I would have pulled up to your house with a brand new Ferrari and I had the keys and I was dangling them, I said, hey, man, for $5,000, you can have this. I got the title in hand. you can have this. I mean, you might have looked around and only had $1,000 in your bank account, maybe even less than that, right? You grew up the way that I grew up. So there was a time that we didn't have any money at all. But if somebody showed up at our front doorstep and we didn't have any money at all, and they had a Ferrari that was worth a couple $100,000, and they had the keys to it and a title, they were willing to sell us for $5,000, we would figure out a way to get it. We would call people. We would, go out and make a deal with somebody. Say, hey, man, I'll cut your grass for a year for $5,000. I'll do whatever it takes to make this happen. Well, when you have a really good offer and you've got it to the right target market and you explain it in such a way that it just becomes a no-brainer, it's an IQ test, people will figure out how to participate and get in on that offer. Now, the key is that you deliver on the back end. So whatever promise that you deliver, you've got to deliver on the back end. I tell people like this all the time when people want to join my coaching, my mentorship, or one of our mastermind programs, whatever it is, I tell them like this. I'm like, man, most coaches and mentors are getting people to make $100,000, maybe even $1 million a year. I said, I've got clients that make $1 million in a day. So for me to actually show you that, well, let me ask you a question, Drewbie. You're a good cook, right? You're a great cook. I know. So, I've ate some of your food. I mean, what do you say that you cook? Something you put ingredients in. What's one of your dishes that you got to whip up some ingredients together?
Some ingredients together, burn ends.
Your barbecue
is one of
sauce,
my favorites.
is it?
Yeah, barbecue. And barbecue sauce.
When you put the barbecue sauce right together, and you can put it in there, right? So would it be fair to say that if you're a smart guy, I'm a smart guy, right? Would it be fair to say that if I came over and stood beside you and you showed me how you did your burn ends and how you put together your barbecue sauce, that you could teach me how to do it?
Yes, 100%.
Right?
I'm
so
confident in that. Yep.
Would it be fair to say that if I have had clients that have had success and have had $1 million days, that I could teach you how to do it? I could show you the formula, right?
Okay.
Because of that, what would somebody exchange to have $1 million day or $1 million year? Right?
I guess it just depends on what they're willing to exchange.
There's people out there that make, Drewbie, $80,000 a year, and their biggest expense in life is they haven't learned how to make $1 million a year. Each and every person has a unique gift inside of them in this earth that they could start delivering today, and if they've got dedicated and they learned how to do the formula, they can make $1 million every year. How much is that costing somebody that's making 80 grand a year, 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year? It's costing them millions over their lifetime. So my perspective behind this is, why wait another year to learn how to make $1 million a year, let alone $1 million a day?
Come on.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, and how do you do that? You can't learn that from somebody who hasn't done it. I can't go make your burnt ends and your specific barbecue sauce unless you teach me how to do it. You've got the secret sauce. But so many people still try to get mentored by their uncle or, by the individual down the street. Like don't expect anybody who hasn't done it and done it themselves to be able to show you exactly how to do it. And if anybody who's listening to this right now, if you're not making $1 million a year, this should be your focus. This should be what you are moving towards. This should be the bar that you set. And then after that, we'll talk about the $1 million weeks, the $1 million months, and the $1 million days.
John, I would normally ask here, one piece of advice to give someone starting in sales, but I really feel like that piece of advice right there might be it, man. One of the quotes that I've heard is, sales is the easiest $250,000 a year job. Let's just call that $1 million. Sales is the easiest $1 million a year job you'll ever have, and the hardest $50,000 a year job you'll ever have. That is like mindset, and getting that through my head was one of, if not the biggest shift in my transition of entrepreneurship and business building and everything, was understanding that I am making this way harder on myself than necessary because I haven't believed and seen that it was possible for me. I always put those own roadblocks up. I always put that wall to be like, well, not for me, or this excuse or that excuse. But the truth is, when I flipped that switch and said, hey, money is this formless object, because one of my wonderful mentors told me to read the book Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and understanding that it is just this formless energy that we use and create in our own way, everything changed. Everything changed for me. And that
Yeah.
was such a wonderful piece of advice from you, John, which I'm like so truly grateful for. And that's the thing is as you continue to learn and grow and you see what's possible for others, it opens your mind up to go, well, hey, that guy's not nearly as good looking as me, not nearly as smart as me, and I have more resources. So what the heck am I doing and or not doing that is allowing them to have the success that I want? And when can I open up and just receive that it's possible for me? Because that's when everything changes.
Bro, and at 100%, my man, I really appreciate that as well, man. I truly live that book out, and not only that, even deeper than that book is very biblical. And anybody who knows me knows I got a solid Bible foundation. And that book, that multiplication, is biblical. It literally says, Deuteronomy 1:11, that God wants to multiply you by 1,000 times. 1,000 times. That's big multiplication right there. Speaking of multiplication, I will give one little piece of advice, Drewbie, here, because I want people to start
Please.
thinking,
Yeah, come
right?
on.
So I just kind of planted a seed in the hearts of many out there that they should be going after $1 million. Well, if you find a product that sells for $20, right? And there's two types of things, right? You got services and you got products. Services, you get paid, then you got to do the work. You get paid, then you got to do the work. You get paid, then you got to do the work. Products, on the other hand, you do the work once and then you get paid and 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 you get paid. So to have big time multiplication, you've got to go move towards some sort of product, right? And whether that's digital or physical, whatever that is, that's how you get the multiplication, right? And you're not, because as a service provider, if I told a service provider right now he's going to get 20,000 clients, they would like explode, right? And implode, because they would have to service 20,000 people, right? So,
Yep.
but products, on the other hand, you can sell 20,000 digital products really quick. So here's something I want to give you, because I am biblical. This is math, and God loves math. And here's the power of the math in this, right? And I want to get your mind thinking about how to get to $1 million. So if you got a product that sells for $20 where you make $20 profit, you got to sell 50,000 of them. So $20 profit, 50,000 of them is going to get you to $1 million, right? Now let's say you take the 50,000 and you move the number, the zero at the end, which is a placeholder number, you move it up. Some people say zeros have no value, and I'm like, nah, they got value, because when you put them on the end of something, it just continues to grow, right? So you take the number 50,000 and you got $20, right? So that's $1 million. If you sell a $20 product 50,000 times, you find 50,000 people, only 50,000 people to pay you $20. You've literally got $1 million. Well, you take the zero on the end of that 50,000 and you move it up to the top, and now you got a $200 product where you've got to sell 5,000 of them to make $1 million. So you got to find a $200 product. You can sell 5,000 of them and make $1 million. Well, now let's take another zero and move it up from the 5,000 and turn it into 500. And take that zero and put it into a $2,000 product. Okay? So you've got to sell 500 $2,000 products to make $1 million. You take the next zero up and put it above, and you got a $20,000 product. You've got to sell 50 $20,000 products to make $1 million. Okay? And then you take the next number, move it up, and you got a $200,000 product. Now we're talking my numbers. You got to sell 5 of them. 5 of them a year. Imagine, Drewbie, that you got a $20,000 product and you've only got to sell 50 of them per year.
That sounds pretty sweet.
Right?
Now,
Right?
I also
That's
know,
all-
I've been in the game long enough to know that's a lot of work to close that many sales, but it's no different than the time you're putting in to close a $5,000
50.
sale. That's the craziest thing. Is like once you realize that,
Yep.
it's the same
Yep.
amount of effort.
So now I guess what you might want to ask yourself going out there, because I just gave you guys a formula to make for a $100 million company or more. Because when you find a product that'll sell at $20 and you can sell it to 50,000 people, there's a percentage of them 50,000 people that'll buy the $200 product, and then there's a percentage of them that will buy the $2,000 product, and then there's a percentage of them that will buy the $20,000 product, and then there's a percentage of them that will buy the $200,000 product. I literally just gave you guys the game, and all you got to do is find one product that you can make $20 profit and sell it to 50,000 people.
John, man, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure having you on today's show. I think we've not only been able to share some wisdom, some amazing stories, but I know if people were paying attention, man, you just gave away at least 7 figures worth of game, if not 1,000 times that, as we know God likes to multiply, man. And one thing I want to make sure, for anyone who did hear this show, whether they know of us or they don't know of us, what's the best way for them to come and find you, man? Because I know you're really pouring into the community and you're making it your life's mission to truly help people find that greatness inside of them. So what's the best way for them to come find you?
Yeah. So things are shifting a little bit. I wouldn't go to my marketing company. I would go to kingdompowerlife.com or head on over to our Facebook group, the Kingdom Power Life Facebook group. There's not a lot of action going on there right now, but we are launching so many things in that space right now where we're going to be having the Kingmaker Syndicate is coming along and all of these different trainings and a lot of free stuff available to the public. And it's all going to be like what you heard today. It's all going to be around supporting individuals' mission to get to where it is that I just took you on this podcast. So it would be a natural segue to what we talked about today.
That is beautiful, man. And that is one of the things I love about sales is it literally gives you the opportunity to write your own check, to create your own lifestyle, and to live the dreams that you had as a little kid. Because when we looked up, we knew there was something out there, and then society pushed us down and made us this little box that we had to fit in. And as we expand on that creativity, as we learn and grow and we develop, the world is our oyster, as they say, man. So, John, thank you for being here today. I truly, truly appreciate it. You guys make sure you go follow John, kingdompowerlife.com. So much great content in there. And truthfully, again, this is a guy who went from being completely scared to walk in and sell himself to being the #1 educator in his industry, to like literally setting the standard on how to sell the product. And now he's built himself up a life where he gets the opportunity to pour into others just like you and I. And that's what this is all about. So get out there, call the damn leads, change your life, and let's take it to that next level. Because I am so excited to keep bringing more awesome stories like this for you and me to keep learning and growing from. We'll see you guys on the next one.